Yo, what's going on? It's your host, Tyrus Duncan. We are back with another episode of Ty Talks. Today, I have another very special guest. He is also my cousin, like the first episode. His name is Darian Brown. Very smart guy, very intellectual. You guys are going to hear him talk soon. I'll let him do a little introduction for himself. Darian, what's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
You just doing?
Just doing. Didn't we have a conversation about that recently?
Did we? I think we did. We was talking about the difference between doing and trying, huh?
Yeah.
What was the end all, the summary of it?
That there's times for trying, there's times for doing, you know what I'm saying? Like, I even broke down, like, it's like more like a telescope, you know what I'm saying? That there's things, like, you can do, right? Like me, there's a certain thing that I want to do in my life, right? But then within that, there's things I can try to kind of maximize that. You see what I'm saying?
I think we broke it down like a action umbrella is what I called it.
Yeah.
So it's like you have doing and you have trying. Doing is the things that you know that you can do and be successful at. Trying is the things that you have a possibility of maybe this is going to work out for the better. Maybe it's not. And maybe it's not.
At the end of the day, I'm going to still give it a shot.
Exactly. So yeah, tell the people about yourself, man.
Came a long way. Oh, wait, I'm just playing that. But my name Darian Brown. Born and raised Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm very family oriented, very goal oriented. You know what I mean? I have very few friendships like that I actually call like friends. There's like acquaintances and everything, but people that I talk to like on a daily basis type thing. Very, very small circle. You know what I mean? I'm like more into that quality over quantity, so I take that in every aspect. And friends, people who you hang around, that's one of the most important because you're going to become the average of the most 4 or 5 people that you hang around, you know what I'm saying? So you hang around 5 broke boys, you're going to be the 6th one. I'm a firm believer in that. You hang around 5 millionaires, you're definitely going to be the 6th one. So since I don't personally know millionaires, I'm not going to hang around the opposite. I'd rather hang around by myself or people who's on that same track, so...
Specifically, people on that same track is very important.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think the quote goes, you become an average of who you spend your most time around or something like that. So, yeah, it's probably better to be alone. But that's also, I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah. Another topic, another day.
Let me get into this question game I got called We're Not Really Strangers.
I'm a fan of that game.
You're a fan of this game?
Yeah.
It is actually pretty interesting. I just want to take one of these and then we'll talk about it. Just for a second, as like an icebreaker before we get into our subject. In one word, how would you describe our conversations?
I'll say they're very intelligent. Every single last one of them.
I was definitely going to use the word intellectual.
Yeah. Like, bro, there's not a conversation that me and you have had as we've been grown, you know what I'm saying, that did not lead to some sort of value.
Literally from the beginning, be like, how you doing, bro? I'm all right. Just all right? Or are you just okay? They would go just they dive deep into what's next. Oh, I'm trying to do this. Like, that's how it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
He's like, trying? Why just trying? Then we literally talked for 45 minutes about what it means to try versus what it means to do.
Facts.
And then we came to think about, like, man, we should just sit down and do this on the pod. And then the subject that came. You're going to give the people a little intro to the subject? What do we choose to talk about?
Who are we? Right? Who are we? That's a great question. Who are we according to the Creator himself, though? That's even a better question. Right? And in Psalms, he definitely states that you are gods, all of us. Right? But we shall die like men. That's our ending. But while we are alive, each and every one of us are gods. And what is God? He is the creator. So what does that mean? That we are all creators, right? He just the Most High. It says it all in that scripture, literally 4 lines.
Very true. Just so the people don't think that we just making stuff up. Where is that? Psalms 82:6 says, and this was David writing, I said you are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. And I like how you broke it down as far as being gods in the way of being creators. I don't think people realize how much power we have over our lives and over our daily decisions and over the fact that our daily decisions that we make, they make tomorrow what it is once it comes.
100% facts.
But if you're not aware of acknowledging the fact that you make the decisions and you have the power, essentially that's what that means, right?
Yeah.
Ye are gods. It means you have the power to create an outcome of something. And I often wonder, what was God doing before he created Earth or the world or us?
It makes my head hurt to think
It makes
about.
my head hurt a lot because I'm like, what made you come to the terms of, let me make Earth and I'm make a whole bunch of humans? Which he also said at one point that he regretted making man. So like, you didn't think this through? You know how they say God knows all or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, but then you regretted making us?
It's crazy. You go down that rabbit hole, I promise you, you're gonna end up with more questions than answers, honestly.
So understanding that you have the power to control your life, what is something that you do on a daily basis to make your life effective?
Well, for starters, I gotta go to get up before everybody else or the average person, because we all got 24 hours in a day. Every single day, there's one thing that's guaranteed. Every single day, time's gonna go by.
How do you feel about people using time as an excuse?
I feel like they need to change their perception of what time is actually for, because time's not used for excuses. Time is the true currency in my eyes. Like, everybody says, oh, money, and that's a type of currency, but time is the currency, because without time, you can't even make money, right? Most people do that exchange. It's time, get money, right? You can do money, get money, right? It's different ways, right? But time, whatever you pay your attention to, right? Pay, it's a currency, right? So whatever you pay your attention to is going to grow. So whether it's a negativity, positivity, it could be something that really doesn't matter, but it matters to you, right? Whatever the case may be. But whatever it is gonna grow in some sort, right? That's a law. Every single day, time is going to go by. The day's going to start. The day's going to end. So how are you going to spend that? You know what I mean? We already going to spend a third of it asleep, right, on average. So why not just at the end of the day? I feel like when my time is up on this earth, I'm gonna get enough rest. That's why I'll be sleep deprived, but I'm okay with it. You know what I'm saying? Because I've seen things growing up that I'm like, okay, I'm cool off of that. Or I've seen things growing up that's like, hey, how did that happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, what was the equation that got that result? Like, I'm looking into other people's lives, trying to learn as much as I can. You know what I'm saying? I said about a lot of my family members. You know what I'm saying? One of the greatest men that I know, my granddad. You know what I mean? But just basically just asking questions at the end of the day. You know what I mean? I like to spend time asking questions.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Because with questions comes knowledge. And if you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. And with the right answers, you can make an outcome that you want.
Facts.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And I've learned that a lot of stuff is built up in hope, right? Because I think we'll make certain decisions with the idea of an outcome coming regardless of. It's like, if I do this, I'm going to get this. When that's not always the case. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try your hardest to get what it is that you want. And I actually had a conversation about that in therapy, about how it's important to come to terms with the outcomes not always working out in your favor or how you want it to work out. But does that mean that you shouldn't try?
I think you should give it a shot anyway.
You should definitely give it a shot.
I posted a post on my Instagram that says, if there was a 0.1% chance that I'm gonna succeed doing what I'm doing versus a 99.9% chance that I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna still go with it. I'll die trying, bro. I promise you, because I'm gonna die doing what I want to do at the end of the day. The result is going to come, whatever the result is. A result's gonna come. That's law, right? Law of cause and effect. You do something long enough, something's gonna happen.
For every action, there's an equal greater reaction.
We have our hopes about what's gonna happen, right? We can kind of ballpark it. If we can make math, you see what I'm saying? If I do this for roughly this amount of time, this might happen, right? And so we're somewhere in that ballpark. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, bro, what we spending our time on?
Back to that point of time being our most valuable asset. I think it was Roddy Rich who said that time is so valuable, or it's our most valuable asset because we can spend it, but we don't know how much we have left of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an interesting thought. When it comes to money, it's like you know exactly how much money you have left after you spend some.
Facts.
It's like say you got $10, you go to the store, you spend $5. You only have $5 left.
Facts.
Now, say you wake up in the morning and you got 24 hours. You don't know if you got the full 24 hours. And you also don't know if you have tomorrow. So it's like, how much time do we waste with the thought of, well, maybe I'll just do it tomorrow.
It's heavy.
It's like, I don't feel like it today. I'll just do it tomorrow.
Who are you to even say that tomorrow is actually a thing for you?
Yeah. Essentially, I mean, prideful beings. It's like we think that tomorrow is or we're going to make it to tomorrow regardless. And that's not always the case.
There was this. It reminds me of this story about it was this man that he had kids and he was a hardworking man, and I remember they were talking about like he was leaving to work, basically the regular routine. He ran into somebody. I forgot who it was, but he was like, did you hug your wife today? Did you give her a kiss, like goodbye and stuff like that? Did you hug her kids? He was like, no. I mean, I'm kind of too busy for that. I'll do that later. And then the guy was like, oh. I mean, who are you to say that? He was like, what do you mean, who am I to say that? Like, I'm my own person. I work hard. Like, I'm not trying to take that from you. Like, yeah, you work pretty hard, obviously, but who are you to say that there's going to be a tomorrow? And he said he couldn't say anything back. He dropped everything, and he called his wife and told her how much that he loved her. Because at the end of the day, bro, you're right. We don't know.
Why do you think we take time so for granted?
That's a wonderful question. I feel like at the end of the day, it's an illusion. There's a big mask over the people, right? There's a mask, and the reason that there's a mask is because it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You have a mask on, but you don't know that you have a mask on. You know what I mean? So what happens when you don't know? That's a dilemma that we have, and it's kind of dangerous because what if you go your whole life without knowing?
Because I was thinking that maybe we take time for granted because that's all we know.
Yeah,
it's like we know all the yesterdays we had, but we don't know about tomorrow. And just because we know the yesterdays, we think that we'll have another yesterday when tomorrow comes, if it comes. But maybe it won't come.
So it's kind of like the more time goes on, you're just getting more deeply rooted into just going about life, just lolly, just going on my day, letting this bother you, and then you upset about that. You know, like at the end of the day, as creators, I'm a firm believer that there's nothing in this outside world that should affect this inside world. And I feel like the Most High, God, set that example in the first book of the Bible. When he's saying, let there be light, he's not fighting darkness to put light. Like, he's not throwing punches at the darkness, and with every punch it gets lighter and lighter. He just says, let there be light. And guess what? There was light. So I feel like at the end of the day, that mask that is over the people is blinding them from seeing who they truly are. It's just a full circle.
How do you remove the mask?
You have to want to first. You have to actually want to, and then after you come to the conclusion that you want to, you have to commit to no matter how hard this is and no matter how painful it is and no matter how far I have to go to break out of this comfort zone, I'm not going to stop until I'm on the other side of that. It's gonna bring tears. It's gonna bring a whole bunch of stuff that people don't want to go through, right? Because as human beings, right, as the flesh, we're wired to protect this flesh, to protect this body, right? If somebody's shooting, what's your first instinct? You're gonna run away, right? But you're not conscious at that point. I promise you, you're not. I promise you, you're not. A couple years ago, when there was a shooting that was going on outside of my apartment, I woke up to literally an AR blasting, like literally right into my wall. There's bullet holes into my wall. I was not conscious, like, oh, wait, they're shooting. I woke up, I heard shooting, and my body did the rest. My body literally threw me from my bed, I didn't touch the ground, through the closet, and then I touched the ground into the bathroom.
So you start flying.
I flew for a good 5 seconds. I promise you, I flew. I was airborne, and I was surprised I didn't hurt myself. But at the end of the day, that was my body's instincts kicking me in to get me to safety. Right? You see what I'm saying? There's only two true things that the human body is scared of when we're born. Everything else is added. Right? And the first fear is sound. Right? Because we have to recognize sound for danger, and the other one is falling. Because when you're falling, you have no sense of control. You can't control that. Imagine you falling out of an airplane with no parachute. Imagine how terrifying that would be for that 2-minute, 3-minute free fall, whatever the case may be. So those are the only two true fears that human beings are born with. Everything else is added, and everything else is subjective to that human being. So there's fears that you have that I may not have, and there's fears that I have that you may not have.
So I think that comes down to circumstance and knowledge.
Yeah,
I would say the first. Like, I think even in order to want to take the mask off, you have to know that you can't. And I think a lot of people are lacking that. They're not exposed to the knowledge of more than the circumstance that they see, which is why I think it's important for us to have these type of conversations, because what that's doing is exposing people, is basically educating people to understand that there's more than what meets their eye at that moment. And education, I would say conversations are important because conversation leads to education, which leads to transformation, which leads to a better life. So it's like, how can you do if you don't first know? And how could, the Bible say, how could he hear without a preacher? A preacher is somebody who knows, it has the ability to share what it is that they know in a way that somebody else can understand. A lot of people only take a preacher as somebody who is, up on a pulpit screaming, yelling, or crying or whatever, trying to get somebody to understand something. But a preacher is somebody who has the knowledge of something, and they have the ability to spread that knowledge to somebody else.
I like that.
So it's like, how can he hear without a preacher? And how is a preacher turned to a preacher? They were exposed to the information. So that's number one. It's the exposure of information. That's what knowledge is. So now you know. And once you know, then you have the opportunity to say, you know what? I don't have to live like this. I'm taking this mask off because I don't have to wear it. But a lot of people keep that mask on unknowingly, ignorantly, per se. It's like they don't know better. And if you don't know better, how could you do better?
Facts.
That's why I think it's so important for us to sit down and have these conversations. And also just understand that you don't know everything, which is a part of wisdom, right? It's like understanding that you don't know everything. You only know some things.
You only know what you know.
You only know what you know. And if you continue to think, I think of a cup, right? If the cup is all the way full, it has no room to get anything else. Now, if you know that the cup is full, you know you need a bigger cup. How can you know you need a bigger cup? You know that your cup is not big enough. That's all through exposure and education, right? So it's like, my cup is not big enough. I need a bigger cup. Then you grow your cup. The bigger your cup is, the more knowledge you can get into it.
How do you grow your cup when it's full?
How do you grow your cup when it's full? That's a great question. I think it's kind of a double-edged answer there. How do you grow your cup, or how do you extend your capacity to gain more? It is our moral duty to pour into others. If you're continually pouring into others, you would never have a full cup. If you are holding on to some stuff, your cup might get full and it might overflow. What good is a cup that's overflowing? You know what I mean? Because a lot of people will sit there and they let the pride of, oh, I know this, I know that, I know this. If you think you know everything, I guarantee that there's a lot of stuff that you don't know. Because the more you know, the less you know. And the more you understand that you don't know everything, the more you have an opportunity to learn more. So it's like, I already know that. Or do you? Do you really? You ask all the questions to get down to the bottom of it. And I always use in a reference of something like water, right? So it's like, say you have a water bottle and someone asks, I'd like to think from a mouth of a child. A child comes to you and they're like, what is that? Oh, this is a water bottle. What is in that water bottle? So now they get the first ounce of knowledge. That is a water bottle. Here comes the next question. You see where I'm going? It's like a layered thing. That's a water bottle. What's in the water bottle? Water. What is water? H2O. What is H2O? Hydrogen and oxygen and some other stuff. Oh, what is hydrogen? And then that just continues to go. So it's like the more you are exposed to knowing what something is, the more you have an opportunity to know more. And it is your moral duty to pour into others the things that you do know. Because you don't want your cup to get so full to where you think that you can't learn anything else. So I think like sitting down, having these conversations or figuring out what your gift is so you can have the ability to pour into others is very, very, very important. Very important.
I agree with you, Tyrus Duncan.
Would you have something to say? I know you long enough to see it on your face.
I mean, at the end of the day, that was a very beautiful breakdown of it, right? Nothing to add to that specifically. You hit that right on the nail. You know what I mean? What I will say, though, is that when you become a person of value, right? And how to become a person of value is by searching, right? You search for that knowledge. You search for things that's going to add value to your life. There are certain people on this earth that are used as instruments, right? Tools by the enemy, right? To suck that energy away from you, right? So, while you're pouring into people, make sure you're actively using our higher faculties that were God-given, right? Your intuition, right? Where you can feel out, you can meet somebody and you can feel out their vibe without them even saying anything, right? They can say 2 words and be like, yeah, something's kind of off. You know what I'm saying? Or you can meet somebody and then their vibe is, oh, y'all click, y'all cool. You can tell the vibes is all good. So make sure that you're pouring into the right cups, right? And make sure that on that journey, when you have your dreams and your aspirations and your goals, that you do not run off at the mouth and tell every single person that comes your way, right? Because like I said, there's some people here that we may not even know, right? Some people that you do know, right? That's just the reality of it.
How do you gauge going into like the ones that you should pour into versus the ones that you shouldn't pour into? Because I think that I have that problem of wanting to pour into everybody who is willing to listen.
Yeah.
Just because they're asking a question. But to your point, some people will ask a question not to try to use it for good, but to try to use it against you, essentially to try to take your throne.
Yeah.
How do you gauge understanding, like, I should pour into this person versus, nah, I'm not about to waste my time?
That's your spiritual compass right there, bro.
Discernment.
Yes, precisely. You can feel it. It's not something that you can just explain in those situations. You literally feel it at your core, and it's a feeling that you cannot explain. You just know that it's very, very strong. It's so strong that you have no choice but to listen to it, right? It's kind of like if I had a needle, right? Or for just to exaggerate this, that there was a chair with needles, right? And it's like, okay, well, this chair is going to poke you with all these needles, and it's going to progressively just keep pushing until you do a certain thing. It's like that. That's the best I can explain it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's going to be so loud. You can only hear this, though. It's going to be so loud that you cannot ignore it. It's like the whole fiber of your being is telling you. You know what I mean? And it's just like, boom.
I definitely struggle with that. Because like I said, I'd be ready to pour into people just because they ask. But some people will come against it. They'll be like, this person knows a lot of stuff. Let me try to gain from this person. And they're not necessarily thinking about learning so they can also leverage the abilities to make things good. Mm-hmm. But they're thinking about learning so they could leverage the abilities to essentially benefit themselves.
Let me ask you this question. Are you the are you the main person in those relationships? Like, do they pour anything back? Do they water the water?
I don't want to say this. Of course I want to say this. I'm tired. I feel like I have very few relationships to where I'm equally being poured into what I pour out, which is draining mentally, emotionally, at times physically. It's like if you use a physical idea of lifting a table or something like that, if you are exuberating most of the strength and the other person is barely doing it, after a while, it's going to catch up to you. It's like, man, if you don't learn to pick up your own weight, you're going to exhaust me to the point to where you're going to not even be strong enough to carry the weight that you got to carry now because I was doing all the work. And one thing I've taught myself is like, you want to learn how valuable you are, remove yourself from the situation and see how it changes. So like when it comes to relationships, stop pouring into the relationship as much as you are and see if you get an equal return or if somebody else is strong enough to pick up the weight that you are leaving on the table for them to carry. And you'll learn that people will often not carry that weight. And now it's just a mess. Because you put in all this work, you're doing all of this, and now you be like, let me fall back.
Once you pull back.
Once you fall back.
You see the truth.
You see the truth.
You see the truth.
And it's like, what in the world?
And sometimes if you're not strong enough to fall back, then guess what? The only one that has our back when nobody has our back, God, he'll put you through a situation to where you have no choice but to fall back. Where it's like, oh, this is not what I wanted to do, but I have no other option, right? You could have been, for the smallest example, you could have been interested in some woman, right? Taking her on all these dates, spending the money, the cha-ching, boom, boom, boom. And now it's like, well, dang, I know I should kind of pull back, but it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Right? So now all of a sudden you hit with a financial situation and you can't take her on those dates no more. Right? You can't spend that cha-ching and you can't, you can, here's some roses, here's some,
Women are interested in something.
You know what I mean? And then their truth is revealed through that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because now it's, you may be in a time of need and she can't reciprocate that or she doesn't want to reciprocate that. You know what I'm saying? I was like, you had me this whole entire time, but now this little pick me up, which is just a season. It's a season in your season. You know what I mean? It's a little side mission. You know what I'm saying?
Hold that point. Nona, can you restart these cameras? That's a excellent point.
Yeah.
Specifically about, man, because to that point, it's like you feel like you're giving and giving and giving. It's like, what I need to do to gain some reciprocity.
Or retributions.
Like I said, women are an interesting subject. They don't like talking about it too much.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that. We talk about it in relationships of essentially mentoring, kind of, or relationships that you hope to gain for. I want to take it back to what we were talking about, time being a valuable asset. What else do you think are valuable assets that we underestimate?
That's a wonderful question. Kind of get the gears turning up there. I'm going to ask questions like that a lot.
Essentially, it's like the underrated blessings that we don't, like time itself is an underrated blessing. And now that I think about it, it kind of takes me to a story. My dad was telling me about your grandfather. And an underrated blessing that we have is mobility. Like the ability to move, right? So for the people listening, your grandfather, he's paralyzed. And he can't move like that. And we often take the mobility of being able to get up and do whatever we want, whenever we want,
Facts.
for granted. Facts. So we'll look at things like, I have to, instead of I get to. And the story he told my dad, and your grandfather still became fairly successful.
Yeah.
Even with his lack of the ability to move how others move. Yeah. He still became fairly successful. And he told my dad, I give all my money right now just to get up and walk across the room. And that kind of hit me. Because I'm like, dang, I'll be sitting here complaining about having to go do certain things And then you have these other people who can't even do those things. So it's like that underrated idea of being able to move and really transitioning the thought or the idea of I have to I get to. I think that does a lot when it comes to understanding our powers that we do have. Yeah. Because it's like, and maybe it's a superpower for some. What's his name? Professor X in X-Men. I don't know if they try to make a correlation here, but he was paralyzed, but mentally a genius. Yeah. So it's like even when we neglect the things that we don't have, it gives us the opportunity to pay attention to the things that we do have, to use those to the fullest advantage. And I don't think we always do that. We get so caught up in a complaining mindset of I get to, or I don't want to do this, or this sucks, or I'm not going over there. I don't want to walk like that. Like, well, I want you to think about not being able to walk before you think about I'm not walking over there. But they used to have it to me at work. They be like, Tyrus, go in the trailer. I'd be like, what? Go do what? I got to go in the trailer. And it's so easy to just get in that mindset of complaining, right? Like, dang, got to get in that trailer for the next 10 hours, throw these boxes. And then it hit me real quick. Some people can't even walk.
Yeah, facts, though. Hey, I feel that, though, because growing up with my granddad, like, he's essentially the one that raised me and my brother. Like, literally, he was the father figure that stepped in. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I don't remember my dad at all, like, being in my life, right? Love him to death still. At the end of the day, he can call me right now. I pick up the phone, no hard feelings. It was probably the biggest blessing that has ever happened to me, right? Because who knows who I would have turned out to be, right, if that type of influence was in my life, right? And I'm not trying to diss or anything. I'm just telling you the 100% truth. You see what I'm saying? So when he stepped in, right, and I remember me and D would be in the El Camino, and my mom would be at the door. He would be coming to pick us up 8 o'clock in the morning. And my mom would be at the door. You look up. Don't worry, I'll make some men out of them. And I remember he would always say, "You want to trade backs with me? I give you my back. You give me your back." I'm like, I'm cool. I'm cool, but like I never really sat down and like thought, and I was a kid, you know what I'm saying? But he said it so many times. Me and D used to play in his wheelchair. You know what I'm saying? We used to be popping willies. We got really good at that, popping willies when he wasn't in it and stuff like that. I remember I was in the garden. There was a chair in the garden, and I remember I was sitting on it, and I had the hoe. I was sitting down. I was busting it out while I was sitting down. And this dude, D, gonna walk over to me and look. He watched me for like 3 minutes. He said, "I think you're gonna be in a wheelchair when you get older." that was just a side story. But by the end of the day, but the point of it is I never really sat and like thought and like really like thank God for those gifts, for those motor functions. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it was very, very symbolic that the biggest role model in my life, like literally like my hero, can't even walk. You know what I mean? I feel like it was him subconsciously telling me, be grateful for what you have, because you never know at the end of the day what can happen, right? As time goes on, it can just be like that and your life change. You know what I mean? So I applaud that, because that's definitely one thing that I take for granted a lot. You know what I mean? I do. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be like, man, I hate this job. I'm about to quit this job. But there's people who can't even work jobs.
And it is definitely easy to take for granted the things that we have every day. Yeah. Like time, like our mobility, like something that simple as taste and smell.
Yeah. I
remember when I got COVID back in 2020. I lost my taste and smell for a month. I said, I'd rather die. This is the worst sickness I ever had in my life. I couldn't taste. Yeah. No, I'm not eating nothing.
I feel that, though. I caught COVID.
I'd rather die.
I went to Chick-fil-A. Well, I got the chicken sandwich. I was not supposed to leave the house. I ain't gonna lie. I'm telling you, this is coming out 4 years later. I was not supposed to leave the house, but I left. I got Chick-fil-A, bro. Got some Sprite. I'm banging it out. I'm drinking the Sprite. I'm like, this tastes like nothing. I'm taking this back. This is carbonated water. It's carbonated water. I know I got COVID. I know I can't taste. I'm like, it's just something ain't right about this. It's carbonated water, so I take it back. I'm like, yo, your Sprite's out in the drive-through.
Whole time you the problem. That's also another point. How often do we do that? Like, we know that we the problem in certain circumstances, but we try to blame the environment or something else, knowing that you are doing something that you ain't supposed to do. And it's like, nah, your Sprite is out. No, you just not take accountability for your own reality. And that's your fault.
That second Sprite did make me feel better, though. It did. For some reason.
You tricked yourself.
It's like my body could taste,
Lied to yourself.
feel the sugar.
You started telling yourself, this actually do taste like Sprite.
I was not in the wrong just now.
But life, essentially, we're blessed. Very blessed, beyond measure. I think what I gained from this conversation is really just a reminder how special time is. The fact that we have the ability to create the life that we want to live. Like, when it comes to being a creator, and every human, like I said in the Psalms, ye are gods. It's like you have the ability to create whatever it is that you want.
Whatever it is.
Use the resources at hand to create what you want to create. And if you don't use the resources, you're not going to get what you want to get.
Thanks.
And as we know, for every action, there is an equal or greater reaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't do those things, you don't make certain decisions, you don't get your reaction.
Remember this. No choice is still a choice.
It's just a choice of nothing.
And it's still gonna produce a result. It's just gonna be a result that you most likely don't want. So are you gonna do something that's hard right now that's gonna get you something that you want? Right? Yeah, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be very hard. Or are you gonna choose to do nothing, and at the end of the day, you're still gonna end up dissatisfied with your life. Now put that into a 50-year span, and imagine how depressing that'll be at the end of that 50 years.
So 1% worse is far worse than 1% better. So it's like, do the thing to make you 1% better.
Even if it's hard, bro.
Even if it's hard. And life do get hard.
Even if you don't want to do it, it is going to get hard. It's inevitable. It's inevitable, bro.
Give the people one more message in closing. For the ones who think that it's too hard to make the hard decisions. Not knowing that not making the hard decisions give you a hard reality.
At the end of the day, yes. You're going to do what's hard now to have it kind of better in the future. I'm not going to tell you how much better, right? That's for the future to tell it yourself, right? Or you can do what's easy now, and you have a very, very hard future. I'll say it's easy staying in the rat race, doing something that you don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty easy, right? 95% of the population do that anyways. It's easy to stay in bed to noon, 11 o'clock, noon, whatever the case may be. You in the bed for 10 hours. It's easy for that. Put that in 50 years. What if you do that for 50 years, every day of your life? What would that look like, right? The hard thing to do would be to get out of bed at 6 a.m., hit the gym, you know what I mean? Eat right. You see what I'm saying? Make sure that your future self can thank your past self for taking care of it, because at the end of the day, it's like we all got one shot. You know what I mean? It's like we all got one shot at this life thing. And every single choice that we make along the way is very, very detrimental, because it's going to reveal itself, right? That result for that choice is going to reveal itself somewhere down the line, whether that's tomorrow, whether that's a week from now, whether that's 5, 10, 25 years from now. A choice today is going to show up sometime in your future, that effect. Now the question is, what effect do you want that to be? What result do you want that to be? Right? And when you answer that question, you know exactly what you should be doing now. You kind of just work backwards, right? You envision that vision. Okay, this is going to be a positive result. Okay, so what makes sense? What does math tell me that I did before that happened? And then before that, and then before that, what did I do before that? And then it's going to be like, okay, so what should I do tomorrow morning? And you should have that answer.
So essentially, it's reverse engineering.
Reverse engineering
what you're saying is
at its finest.
To establish where you see yourself or what it is that you want, and then rebuild it backwards.
Yes.
Reverse engineer. So it's kind of like,
because a lot of people don't know where to go next.
yeah,
What do I do now?
it's kind of like Legos, right? They show you the final product on the box,
Facts.
and then they give you all the resources necessary to build the final product. So it's like you see the final product, and now you just kind of got to build it.
Yeah, but and to add on to that, we're the ones as creators that builds that Lego sheet. That's the tricky part, because it's easy to get lost. Of course, you got lost. You don't have a map, and then you don't realize that you have to build the map, right? So I have to build the map and then follow the map. We're used to just getting maps and then taking the directions on it and then getting a result, but the work, no, you can't get to work yet until you build your map, because everybody's map is unique to them, right?
That's the importance of asking the questions.
Yeah,
and surrounding yourself with people who have done what it is that you want to do, and literally picking apart the pieces that you want from them and adding it to your own repertoire. So in the end, you could be all that you hope to be.
And to bring it back full circle, that is exactly why I like spending my time asking questions.
Beautiful. I think this was a great episode.
It was.
I think people might have to run it back a couple of times to get everything in it. As most of my conversations are. Like, even when I be watching it back, like, dang, I said that. Or dang, they said that. It's crazy. That's the beauty of conversation. That's the beauty of recording conversation, of having things tracked, of just being able to look back on it and get the things that you may have missed the first time. Some movies is better the second time you watch it.
You're right.
Or the 30th time that you watch it.
There's some movies now that I watch back now that I watched when I was a kid 10 years ago. And it's like, some of it's hysterical. I'm like, I did not get that last time I watched this. Or I did not see that. Or it just went right over my head.
Yeah.
Like, up until like a couple days ago, there's a movie that I watched. I'm like, bro, Baby Boy. Baby Boy was on.
Oh,
Boy,
man.
I'm telling you things in that movie. I'm like, okay, yeah. This is definitely comedy. Back then, I didn't see it as a comedy, but there's some funny scenes in that I did not laugh at when I was younger at all.
Oh, man. Well, I thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Ty Talks, where we like to unravel some of life's most daunting ideas. Darian, you've been a great guest today.
Appreciate it. You've been a great host, man.
I think you think I try. But yeah, peace.